is the Voice of Turkey's English language transmission, broadcasting from Ankara in an ideal meter band between 1230 UTC and 1545 kHz, and in the 49 meter band between 1930 UTC and 5945 kHz to Europe. The Voice of Turkey is also beamed between 2130 UTC in the 31 meter band on 9875 kHz to South Asia and Australia, and in the 25 meter band on 11660 kHz between 1630 730 UTC to Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. You can listen to us on the Turksat 3A and 4A satellites on the internet at www.trtdinle.com through the links, radios, and then the Voice of Turkey. Our email address is englishdesk@plata.net.tr.
Before we begin, let's have a quick look at the headlines. Turkey, Saudi Arabia to implement robust plan to enhance mutual trade. Turkish Cypriot President receives senior UN official amid road construction dispute. Efforts continue to extinguish wildfires in Greece's Alexandroupolis, Evros. U.S. strongly condemns continued persecution of Crimean Tatars, and White House increasingly confident Prigozhin died in plane crash. And now details of the news. Turkey, Saudi Arabia to implement a robust plan to enhance mutual trade. Ankara and Riyadh will implement a robust plan to increase bilateral trade, Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat said on Monday after meeting Saudi Industry and Mineral Resources Minister Bandar Al-Khorayev. Quote, unquote, we will implement a robust plan to enhance mutual trade between Saudi Arabia and Turkey, particularly increasing reciprocal investments in the manufacturing sector, Bolat said on X, formerly Twitter, after the meeting in the Turkish capital. Quote, unquote, in this context, we will also sign a memorandum of understanding for cooperation in export strategies and sectoral partnerships in the coming days, he added. Built upon Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's visit to Jeddah last month, Bolat said this collaboration will continue to work towards their companies getting a larger share in projects in Saudi Arabia. Turkish Cypriot President receives senior UN official amid road construction dispute. Turkish Cypriot President Ersin Tatar received on Monday a senior UN official who is paying a 3-day visit to the island nation amid a dispute over a road construction. Tatar and Miroslav Yencha, UN Assistant Secretary General for Europe, Central Asia and the Americas, met in the capital of Pasha for talks which lasted 1.5 hours at the presidential building. Colin Stewart, the head of the UN peacekeeping force in Cyprus, and Erdogan Olgun, the Turkish Cypriot president's special representative, also attended the meeting. Yencha's visit came after UN peacekeepers on 18th of August intervened in road construction work to link the Turkish Cypriot village of Pile in the buffer zone with the rest of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Speaking to reporters following the meeting, Tatar said he informed Yencha that the Pile-Yiğitler road construction plan is a humanitarian project and was born out of necessity. Tatar told Yencha that UN peacekeepers moved to prevent the construction of a humanitarian road connecting the Pile and Yiğitler villages is unacceptable. The UN official for his part told reporters, quote unquote, we hope that there will be common ground in the future for the resumption of peace talks that benefit the entire people. Yencha, who will be in Cyprus between 27th and 29th of August, held a separate meeting with the Greek Cypriot leader Nikos Christodoulides early on Monday. The road expansion is strategically important for residents as it will give them more options to reach Pile, where Turks and Greek Cypriots live together. Residents of Pire will be able to travel shorter distances and will not have to pass through British bases when crossing to the Turkish side when the 11.6-kilometer construction and repair work ends. Efforts continue to extinguish wildfires in Greece's Alexandroupolis, Evros. Wildfires continue to spread across Greece's northwestern region of Evros, which erupted on 19th of August, with firefighters using fire engines, helicopters and airplanes to contain and put out the fires in primarily 2 areas, local media reported Monday. So far, the fires had no effect on the settlements bordering the Rhodope region, according to the broadcaster ERT, the Hellenic Broadcasting Corporation. The fire department spokesperson Yannis Artopios warned that the Dandia forest in Evros region is already severely burned down and the forest is under serious threat if the wind changes its direction to the south. He also reiterated that the National Intelligence Services is investigating the possibility of arson and malicious action behind the wildfires in the Evros region. U.S. strongly condemns continued persecution of Crimean Tatars. The U.S. on Monday strongly condemned the continued persecution of Crimean Tatars by Russia. Quote-unquote, the U.S. strongly condemns the continued persecution of Crimean Tatars by Russian occupation authorities, including a new wave of mass arrests and detentions, Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. He added, quote-unquote, Russia must end its persecution of Crimean Tatars, its occupation of Ukraine, and release all political prisoners there. Russian forces entered the Crimean Peninsula in February 2014. President Vladimir Putin formally divided the region into 2 separate federal subjects of the Russian Federation the following month. Crimea's ethnic Tatars have since faced persecution, a situation especially decried by many countries. Turkey, the European Union and the US, as well as the UN General Assembly, view Crimea's annexation as illegal.
The news continues on the English language broadcast of the Voice of Turkey.
White House increasingly confident Prigozhin died in train crash. The White House said Monday it is increasingly confident the head of a notorious Russian private military company died when his private jet crashed outside of Moscow last week. Quote-unquote, we are increasingly confident that Prigozhin died in the plane crash that took place on 23rd of August, White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters. She was referring to Yevgeny Prigozhin, the former head of the Wagner Group, a Russian private military company whose operations were critical to Russia's war in Ukraine and who has acted on behalf of the Kremlin in Syria and Africa. Russia has previously said Prigozhin was among the 10 who died when the Embraer private business jet crashed shortly after it departed Moscow for St. Petersburg. Wagner co-founder Dmitry Utkin and other Wagner personnel also died. Biden declares state of emergency as Tropical Storm Idalia barrels towards Florida. Tropical Storm Idalia is picking up intensity as it barrels towards the state of Florida, prompting U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday to declare a state of emergency. Biden, quote-unquote, ordered federal assistance to supplement state, tribal and local response efforts due to the emergency conditions resulting from Tropical Storm Idalia, the Federal Emergency Management Agency said in a statement. The storm system is heading toward Cuba and is expected to track north through the Gulf of Mexico with Florida in its crosshairs. Forecasters are predicting that Idalia could potentially develop into a Category 3 hurricane by the time it makes landfall on Wednesday. Quote-unquote, Idalia is now forecast to become a major hurricane before it reaches the Gulf Coast of Florida, the National Weather Service posted on X. Biden's declaration of emergency encompasses 33 Florida counties. Spanish newspaper introduces Turkish dish chilbur to its readers. Turkish cuisine is one of the easy-to-prepare dishes. Chilbur was featured in a Spanish newspaper on its gastronomy section. The newspaper ran the feature under the headline, quote-unquote, have you ever tried chilbur, the typical and healthy dish of Turkey that you will prepare in 20 minutes? The piece said, quote-unquote, Spain has a rich gastronomy, from savory dishes such as the typical paella or potato omelette to surprising pastries, among others. But this does not mean that outside of our country there are no incredible foods. In Turkey, çılbır, also known as Turkish eggs, is very typical. If you like to eat healthy and also love spicy food, this recipe is perfect for you. But be careful, it's as rich as it is spicy. Don't overdo it. The newspaper provided a recipe for çılbır, which it said, quote-unquote, they are practically poached eggs with a rich yogurt sauce and a touch of herbed paprika. Turkish cuisine in Spain is usually associated with döner, kebab, lokum, and baklava. And sports, upsets galore on the first day of US Open tennis tournament. Men's number 4 seed Holger Rune and women's number 8 seed Maria Sakkari were the biggest names to crash out of the last Grand Slam tournament of the season, the US Open Tennis Championships, on the first day of play. Spain's Roberto Carballes Baena shocked Holger Rune 3-1 in the first round of the tournament, getting his first top 10 win in his career. He plays Russia's Aslan Karatsev next. Soon to be world number 1 Novak Djokovic in his first match at the Arthur Ashe Stadium since the 2021 US Open final, where he lost to Daniil Medvedev, did short work of France's Alexander Müller. The stellar Serb closed the match in 3 straight sets. He will take on Barnabas Zapata Miralles on Wednesday. Home contenders in the men's draw, Taylor Fritz, Francis Tiafoe, Christopher Eubanks, Ben Shelton and Tommy Paul also advanced to the second round without much fuss. World number 1 in women's tennis, Iga Swiatek, kicked off her title-defending campaign on Monday against Sweden's Rebecca Peterson. Swiatek won the match 6-0, 6-1, setting up her second meeting with Australia's Daria Saville on Wednesday. Maria Sakkari was knocked out in the first round by Spain's Rebecca Masarova in 2 sets. Sakkari hasn't reliably pulled off deep runs at Grand Slams, suffering 8 round 1 losses in her 31 main draw appearances, most recently at Wimbledon this year. In a most anticipated first-round match, American Sloane Stephens took on Brazil's Gritty Beatriz Haddad-Maia. In their second match, the 2017 US Open champion Stephens was not able to resist Haddad-Maia's stubborn defense and lost the match 6-2, 3-7, 6-4. Haddad-Maia plays another American in the next round, Taylor Townsend. Some of the top women's seeds, Elena Rybakina, Belinda Bencic and Karolina Mukova, advanced to the second round with comfortable scorelines. And that was the news brought to you by the Voice of Turkey.